Hey folks, Terry here. We're talking Trump, Biden, and the coronavirus. So we all know the media and the Democrats blame Trump for the coronavirus and for the deaths, the 220,000 deaths that have occurred in the United States because of the coronavirus. It's Trump's fault. Well, no, it's not Trump's fault. First, it's the coronavirus from China. And second, it's a virus. And as we're seeing all over the world with recurrences and second and third stages, it's a virus. What these countries have done elsewhere hasn't stopped it because it's like the flu. We have flu shots, we still get the flu. We're not going to be able to greatly control the coronavirus until we get a virus vaccine. But even then, we're not going to totally stop it because it's a virus. But what have we done and what can we do to slow it down and to minimize the deaths that occur? Well, we know the deaths occur in mostly the elderly and in people who have underlying conditions and other issues, mostly. In the death rate, the United States has about 334 million people for the population. And according to the coronavirus tracker on Real Clear Politics, as of Monday, October 19th, the US's death rate was about 690 people per million. And our confirmed case fatality rate was 2.65%. Now, how do we compare that to other countries? And I'm not going to compare it to countries like China, where we don't know their information. And they're also a dictatorship where things are done totally differently. I'm going to compare it to our European allies, to Western Europe, to Canada, to Mexico. So we compare the US, let's say, to the UK. They have a death rate of 658 people per million. Now, the UK is about 20% the size of the United States. They're much smaller. They did shut down. They did close borders. In the United States, we have 50 states, people going back and forth across states. The UK, they don't have that. They don't have that number of people. Yet their death rate was 658 people per million, and their confirmed case fatality rate was 5.9%, more than double the US's confirmed case fatality rate. That's important because it tells you that we have better health care than they do. When they knew about a case, when they treat it, our confirmed case fatality rate is much lower. We have better health care. They have the national health care, That's what the Democrats want here. Really, they want here not Medicare for all. They want Medicaid for all here, where you don't get access to the doctors, where you're on waiting lists, and where you don't get the same treatment. That's why everybody comes to the US to get treatment. All right, so after the UK, we have Italy. Italy has about 60 million people. Again, they're less than 20% of what the US has. They have 606 people per million that died, and an 8.65% confirmed case fatality rate. Spain, 728 people per million, and they have a population that's, again, in that 20% range. They're actually 47 million people population, so it's 14% of what the US has. Again, confirmed case fatality rate is higher than the US. It's 3.35 in Spain. In France, they have about 67 million people for their population. 502 per million died. And they have a 3.7% confirmed fatality rate. Belgium, tiny population, about 11 million people. 914 people per million died. And they have a 4.5% confirmed case fatality rate. And finally, Germany. Germany has a good rate. They have 82.5 million people, about a quarter of the US. Only 120 per million die. But they have a confirmed case fatality rate of 2.65%, right in line with the US. Now, when you take those Western European states and you add them together, you get just about the same population as the US, about 334 million people. When you factor in those death rates and you weigh them by percentages of the population, Germany gets a quarter of their population. So you weigh in those numbers as worth 25%. Belgium only gets 3.5% of their population. So you weigh their numbers only in for 3.5%. You come up that their total combined death rate is 500 people per million. And their combined confirmed case fatality rate is 4.76%. So their death rate is a bit better than the US's. But again, they were all able to close their borders. The US, we have 50 states. We didn't stop states from moving back and forth. Wasn't really able to close state borders. Their confirmed case fatality rate is about 80% higher than the US. Now, let's talk about Canada. We heard about Canada at debate, how they're great, much better than the US. They're really not. First, they're much smaller. They're only 37 million people. So they're maybe 11% of what the US has, 11 or 12%. They had 264 people per million die. And they had a confirmed case fatality rate of 4.55%. Then we have Mexico on the other border. They have about 126 million people for their population. So a little more than a third of the US. They had 684 million people. 684 people per million die. And a 10.1% confirmed case fatality rate. That's almost 4 times the US rate. So if you look internationally, our numbers are in line with big free countries. You look on the tables, the top deaths in the world, the US has the most deaths in the world according to what is reported. After them, you come with Brazil, and they have a death rate of 742 people per million. Mexico, I told you, they have death rate of 692 people per million. The UK, 664 people per million. Spain, 735 people per million. Peru, over 1,000 people per million. So the death rates are pretty similar. And the big difference is being free societies. And we have 50 states in a 334 million population where people do move back and forth. So that's worldwide. How about home? How about here in the US? What are the death rates? What we have here is 50 states and 50 governors that have their own rules. We don't have one set of rules for the entire country. And that's one of the reasons blaming Trump for everything is just flat wrong. We don't have one set of rules. We have 50 sets of rules, and they're governed individually in each state by their governors, by their legislatures. So what do our numbers show? Well, first, our numbers show that the states all vary, and it's dramatic, the difference. The worst states in the country are from the Northeast. New Jersey's the worst in the country. They have a death rate of over 1,800 people per million. Right after them comes New York, more than 1,700 people per million. Then we have Connecticut and Massachusetts and Rhode Island. It's a horror show in those 5 states. And in fact, if you were to remove the deaths that occurred over the national average, so they have 1,800 in New Jersey. If they took away the 1,100 more than the 690 average of the US, and you took that away from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, the US's number would drop down into the 500s. So what happened? Why was the Northeast so bad? Well, the first thing is, in New York and New Jersey, they had horrendous policies regarding the elderly. They basically forced old folks' homes to take in people who had the coronavirus, to take in those patients. And as a result, the elderly got sick. The people treating them got sick and passed it on. So it wasn't a well thought out policy. In New York, they even went to cover up that they did it. They changed their reporting rules. They stopped reporting nursing home deaths as the people from nursing homes. If they transferred them to a hospital, then they said it was a hospital death instead. So they didn't have to show the damage that the Cuomo and the Murphy policies did in these nursing homes. Now, back in January of 2020, what happened when this coronavirus sprung up? Well, what happened is that the U.S. was busy dealing, the U.S. Congress was busy dealing with a stupid partisan impeachment. And Nancy Pelosi had promised impeachment was such an extreme, drastic measure. It would never happen if it was partisan, if it was political. That's what she promised. And then what did she do? She pushed forward a partisan political impeachment. In fact, not one Republican in the House voted for that impeachment. Not only that, but several Democrats voted against it. And one Democrat changed parties because he wanted no part. During that time, Trump initiated what they called the China travel ban because of the China virus, the coronavirus. When he did it, you had people like Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all criticize him, call him a racist, a xenophobe, and say that he was overreacting and that there was no need to do what he was doing. Pelosi was recorded telling people, oh, come to Chinatown, show your support. Not a very smart move. Not a very smart move. What else did Trump do? Afterwards, he instituted an EU travel ban. Now, those two travel bans slowed down the spread of the coronavirus in the United States. And during that time, the virus was spreading in Europe. And then, unfortunately, before our EU travel ban, it did come here, but it didn't come as fast as it would have. And while we had that period where it wasn't spreading quickly in the US, it was ravaging China and Europe. And that gave them time to start figuring out how to treat it and how to deal with such a deadly virus. And this virus was far more deadly than the flu or than H1N1 from 2009. The potency of this virus, it's a killer, and it kills in much higher numbers. So we had that so-called downtime when the virus was not spreading super fast here. But then by March, we were starting to see a real spread, and the US started to lock down. There's another situation, unfortunately. New York didn't lock down until almost mid-March. They probably should have locked down 2 weeks earlier. But again, people didn't know what to do. It's a novel virus. It's called a novel virus for a reason, because it's new and they just didn't know what to do. And if you look back from today, from October back for the past 10 months, you can see clearly nobody really knew how to handle this virus. Nobody. Nobody in the United States and nobody in the world. The United States, Dr. Fauci early on, do not wear a mask. Do not wear a mask. He didn't want to do the shutdown. He didn't want to do the travel ban. So when you look back and you see what's been done, the one thing we know is that we didn't know, and we still fully don't know. We're learning now. We're real close. You can see that the therapeutics are working. And that goes back to Donald Trump, the therapeutics. What did he do? He had to go the role of support and supplement federal government. So what did he do? He offered governors assistance, and early on they all praised him. He gave them anything they wanted. He talked to them. Newsom, Cuomo, all the governors praised President Trump for what he had done. He pushed into production PPEs. Our PPEs had been depleted. Pushed into production, mass production PPEs. He also pushed into production ventilators. He used the Defense Production Act. He pushed into production ventilators. Remember, they all talked about, oh, we need ventilators. We need ventilators. Boom, there was no need for ventilators. Andrew Cuomo, I need 40,000 ventilators. President Trump said he's not going to need 40,000, but we're going to get him what he's going to need. They mocked President Trump. Cuomo said, what does he know? I'm in charge here. I'm on the ground. Turned out Cuomo was wrong. He didn't need 40,000 ventilators. Did they ever say President was right? No. The press mocked him. Did they ever say President was right? No. President Trump gave California a hospital ship, gave New York a hospital ship. New York didn't use it. They sent all the elderly patients back to nursing homes. They did not use the hospital ship. So what else? President Trump fast-tracked therapeutics, fast-tracked it, removed the bureaucracy. Still kept safety, but removed all of the long, slow, bureaucratic measures. Same thing with the vaccines. We now have 4 vaccines in final stage trials, which means we're probably going to have a vaccine within 2 weeks. That's amazing because they fast-tracked that process. And yes, they're going to be safe. And what do we hear across the board now from the Democrats? Oh, it's Trump's vaccine. It's not going to be safe. It's not Trump's vaccine. He fast-tracked it. It's a vaccine coming from these drug companies and these scientists and these doctors that are working on it. And it's going to have approval before it's issued. So it's kind of crazy that they're telling you, oh, don't take this vaccine. I heard Cuomo talking about, we're not going to approve the vaccine. We're going to have New York look at it first. Here's the guy with 3 times the death rate of most states in the country. The guy who, if anybody screwed up, he did solely because of his policies with the nursing homes. And he's constantly lashing out at Donald Trump. And why is he doing that? He doesn't want to accept responsibility for what his policies did. They probably killed between 10 and 16,000 old folks. So where do we go from there? They want to know who got it right, who got it wrong. Most people, I would say most got it wrong partially. And everybody was doing the best they could. Nobody wanted people to die. Nobody wants to at least praise Trump for the good things he did. Now, did he do good things? Of course he did good things. Ramped up production of PPEs, ramped up production of ventilators, ramped up production of therapeutics. These vaccines coming about. We need a vaccine. That's the only thing going to stop a virus. Think about the flu. 40 million people get the flu every year, and we have a flu shot. And 40 million people still get the flu every year. H1N1 back, that was Obama Biden. H1N1. What happened back then? That was a deadly virus. You know how many people in the United States got the H1N1 virus? When they did such a great job of stopping it, 60 million people got that virus. Fortunately, it wasn't as deadly as the coronavirus. Fortunately, only 8.5 million people in the United States have gotten the coronavirus. If 60 million people had gotten that, our death rate would be up. Our deaths, instead of being about 220,000, would be about 1.5 million. So think about that. The travel bans helped slow that process, helped us to get more drugs, more treatments, more therapeutics. 60 million people got H1N1. 8.5 million people got this virus. Normally, more than 40 million get the flu. So if you look at that, 20% is the number, 8 million to 40 million. That's only 20% got this virus compared to who gets the flu. And compared to who got the H1N1, it's even lower than that. So I would say we've done a great job of controlling this virus. Where's the one point where Trump could have been a little stronger? And this is my opinion. A lot of people disagree, but I think many more would agree. They've argued over and over these masks. Do they work? Are they for me? Are they for others? My doctor, I have a World Trade Center treatment doctor because of working at the World Trade Center and my lungs have an issue. I have an underlying factor. My doctor says wear the mask when you're within 20 feet of people, that this is airborne, it's respiratory. The mask will help. You still may get the virus with the mask, but it will dilute the potency of the virus. Trump was macho and wouldn't wear a mask. He didn't tell others not to. He just wouldn't. We can't have a national mandate to wear a mask. We have a republic. We have 50 states, and they're all doing their own thing. And in many states, they're okay. The Democrats and the media criticize the hell out of Florida and Texas and Georgia because they had 3 Republicans there that they don't like. Cuomo criticized them, Murphy criticized them, Rick Santorum, everybody jumped all over him. Kemp in Georgia, everybody jumped all over him. And Abbott in Texas, everybody. Florida and Texas are 2 huge states, big populations. Their death rates are 2.5 times less than New York and New Jersey. 2.5 times less than New York and New Jersey. So people have different ways of handling it, different ways of whether or not they want to wear a mask. Some states have mask mandates, but the national government can't. Joe Biden was talking about a national mandate. Last week he said, well, we can't do a national mandate. Duh. Known that all along. So we're going to close off by saying we've done the best we could do. Where do we go from here? Biden says he's got a plan. His plan is to increase production, PPEs. His plan is to increase equipment, ventilators, PPEs, plan to help with therapeutics and help with a vaccine. Well, that's already been done. President Trump has already done those things, and we're going to have a vaccine before the end of the year. Beyond that, his plan is to wear a mask. Good plan. President Trump has done what was needed, and his job was done well. Okay, Trump 2020.